Good evening, you're watching the 8:30 English news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. Iran nuclear agreement parties resumed the third round of negotiations in Vienna, aimed at bringing the United States back into the accord. The World Health Organization approves Moderna Vaccine for emergency use against COVID-19. And India reports more than 400,000 new COVID-19 cases as Delhi extends lockdown with cases overwhelming hospitals. Those are the headlines, and now the news in detail. Parties in the Iran nuclear agreement are to resume today the third round of negotiations in Vienna, aimed at bringing the United States back into the accord. The deal, which curbs Iran's nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief, has been on life support since then US President Donald Trump bolted in 2018. The remaining partners to the 2015 accord have been engaged in negotiations since early April to try to revive it. The third round of talks started on Tuesday, and after several days of technical discussions between experts groups and delegations, will resume today. The EU Foreign Policy Chief, Joseph Borrell's office, said delegates from Britain, China, France, Germany, Iran and Russia would meet in person at 1300 hours GMT. The World Health Organization has given the go-ahead for emergency use of Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine. The mRNA vaccine from the US manufacturer joins vaccines from AstraZeneca, Pfizer-BioNTech and Johnson & Johnson in receiving the WHO's emergency use listing. The WHO said similar approvals for China's Sinopharm and Sinovac vaccines are expected in the coming days and weeks. The green light for Moderna's vaccine, announced late yesterday, took many months because of delays that WHO faced getting data from the manufacturer. Many countries without their own advanced medical regulatory and assessment offices rely on the WHO listing to decide whether to use the vaccine. Meanwhile, UN Children's Agency UNICEF also uses the listing to deploy vaccines in an emergency like the pandemic. Indian capital New Delhi will stay in lockdown for another week because of the surge in COVID-19 cases. The current shutdown had been due to expire on Monday, but the number of cases is still rising fast in the city of 20 million people. New Delhi recorded 27,000 new cases and 375 deaths. The city's hospitals have been overwhelmed with lethal shortages of beds, drugs and oxygen, meaning many people have been dying outside without treatment. Many of Delhi's graveyards are now full, and many crematoriums are working around the clock and burning bodies in waste ground and car parks. April saw the country report 7 million new infections. A fire in a COVID-19 hospital ward in western India killed 18 patients early today as the country grappling with the worst outbreak yet steps up vaccination drive for all its adults, even though some states say they don't have enough jabs. India today set yet another daily global record with 401,993 new cases, taking its tally to more than 19.1 million. Another 3,523 people died in the past 24 hours, raising the overall fatalities to 211,853. Experts believe both figures are an undercount. The fire broke out in a COVID-19 ward on the ground floor and was extinguished within an hour. 31 other patients at the welfare hospital in Bharuch, a town in Gujarat state, were rescued by hospital workers and firefighters, and their condition was stable. The death toll in a powerful suicide truck bombing that struck a guest house in eastern Afghanistan rose to 21, with many as 90 others wounded. No one immediately claimed responsibility for the late last night bombing in the Pulebalam, the capital of Logar province. Naib Amin Hospital, the closest to the incident area, received a large number of injured people, while the most serious ones were transferred to Kabul hospitals. The Interior Ministry blamed the Taliban. The attack came on the eve of the official date set for the start of the final withdrawal of US and NATO troops from Afghanistan. The Taliban, who had demanded that all US troops pull out of Afghanistan by May 1st, have not offered any guarantees for the safety of the departing troops. There was no indications the bombing was connected to the pullout, and there are no US or NATO troops in Logar province. An extreme thunderstorm hit an eastern Chinese city, leaving 11 dead and 102 injured, with strong winds causing buildings and trees to collapse. Nantong City, located in the eastern province of Jiangsu, was among the hardest hit when the extreme weather swept the Yangtze Delta last night. Rescuers evacuated 3,050 people. Wind speeds of 100 miles per hour overturned a fishing ship. 2 sailors were rescued, and search operations are underway for the 9 remaining crew. Electricity has been restored in Nantong, and collapsed trees and damaged vehicles are being cleared. To the Camera News Bulletin, the effects of Al-Khair trough continue over the Salta with varied intensifying rains. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman Television. Now for some local news, the Ministry of Finance announced its commitment to pay dues of the private sector in the 5 working days in average, after checking that the financial transaction is complete and being submitted through the electronic financial system. The dues payable till last April amounted to more than 411 million Omani riyals. Companies and establishments of the private sector can update their data in beneficiary number system through the ministry's website and follow up its financial payments. In cooperation with the Central Bank of Oman, the Ministry of Finance has completed salaries electronic payment initiative in March 2021 in order to facilitate and speed up the transferring process of salaries and regular payments through electronic banking services. The state's general budget recorded decrease in general expenditure by 2.73% during the first quarter of the current year compared to the same period last year. The Ministry of Finance showed that the actual deficit amounted to 751,400,000 Omani riyals during the first quarter of the current year. The total collected revenues decreased during the first quarter of 2021 by 30% compared to the same period last year due to decline in global oil prices and economic impacts caused by coronavirus pandemic. The main index of Muscat Stock Exchange increased last week by 1.1%, increasing all the sector successive week amid good performance by leading listed companies in priced index sample. The index closed last week's trading at 3,761 points, recording weekly gains by 42 points, while all sectoral indices recorded an increase, on top of which industry sector rose by 300 points. The financial sector index also increased by 52 points and services sector by 20 points. The effects of Al Khair trough continue over the Sultanate. A number of wilayas in the Governorate of Dakhiliya witnessed rains with varied intensity, which led some wadis and their tributaries to overflow. The following footage, rainfall from the wilaya of Samail. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we go into tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Iran nuclear agreement parties resumed the third round of negotiations in Vienna aimed at bringing the United States back into the accord. The World Health Organization approved Moderna vaccine for emergency use only against COVID-19. And India reports more than 400,000 new COVID-19 cases as Delhi extends lockdown from cases overwhelming hospitals. And with that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us in the studios, please stay safe. Good night.